Guterres has concluded a two-day visit to Somalia, where he met with President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, diplomats and representatives of the international community. Somalia, which is facing a sixth dry season and worsening access to food for nearly half of the country's population, which is 70 million. The country is also facing and fighting an increasingly violent Islamist insurgency. Now, last year was one of the deadliest for the country, with over 6,500 reported deaths. Well, speaking in the capital, Mogadishu, earlier, Mr. Guterres once again urged donors to act swiftly to support the Horn of Africa country, as he went on to announce that the UN will be supporting the government's fight against the militant group Al-Shabaab.
I commended the President's efforts to advance peace and security and highlighted the importance of strong collaboration with federal states to address the threats posed by Al-Shabaab. The United Nations is committed to supporting national and regional efforts to protect human rights and combat terrorism and violent extremism, including through the African Union's transition mission. I also met civil society representatives and was deeply inspired by their vision and energy. A safe and inclusive civic space is essential to good governance and can help prevent and reduce violence.
So that was Mr. Guterres speaking earlier today. Let's break this down a little bit further and try to understand the issues at hand. Joining me is Mohammed Hussein Gas, who is director of the RAD Peace Research Institute in Mogadishu, and he's also a research associate of the Conflict Research Programme at the London School of Economics and Political Science in the UK. So the UN, sir, thank you for joining us, is saying that its commitment to help fight Al-Shabaab stands. Is it effective? Can they do that?
Thank you so much for having me. I do think they can do many things, actually, and it's very commendable that Secretary Guterres has went all the way to visit Mogadishu and to witness the efforts of the Somali people and the Somali government in the fight against Al-Shabaab. But also the Safari route that has been recurring, as you mentioned it, for the last so many years. I think there are few things that the UN Assistant Mission in Somalia can do, or the UN has, and with its different organizations. One is given the mandate of United Nations Mission in Somalia, which is advancing peace building and state building of Somalia. I think they can focus on that, beside providing very timely, as Secretary Guterres has called or unappealed, very timely humanitarian aid. They can, double their efforts in terms of institutional capacity injection, but also in terms of providing the necessary financial and whatever diplomatic.
Mr. Gas, what's allowed Al-Shabaab to gain more territory and to embolden them?
I think what allowed is actually the fact that institutions are very fragile. We have seen from last year, because of the local uprising in central regions, Al-Shabaab has been cleared from more or less 3 of the central regions. They only remain in 1 or 2 districts. But then now the government has announced it's going to start the next phase of the offensive. And I think what we need here is, if the UN puts its weight behind the government and the Somali people to liberate themselves from Al-Shabaab, I think then we can achieve, a very high rate of success in order to accomplishing, clearing out Al-Shabaab from Somalia and the region.
Why is it that the Somali government is placing some importance on the lifting of the arms embargo that has been placed on the country? Why does that matter so much?
I think this is a very good question, and thank you for asking. The reason is Al-Shabaab, have access to small arms, so is the federal government. So you have 2 almost equal parties fighting against each other. And then in that situation, one cannot expect, the government to deliver an overwhelming defeat against Al-Shabaab. Somali government and security forces need advanced military hardware that includes different, equipment and and technologies which will allow them, you know, to bring final defeat to Al-Shabaab.
Mr. Mohammed Hussein Gas, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.